If you can stop talking for 10 seconds, that would be fantastic. You want to hit the start timer on there? You want to hit? You want to start podcasting, genius?
Hey, Biff, how do vampires know if they had a successful Valentine's Day?
I don't know. Does it involve some kind of sucking?
If it was love at first bite.
Not quite sucking.
If it was love at first bite.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, it's a season, but it's Valentine's Day. I know you're a hopeless romantic, so these are all for you. These are all custom for you. Hey, Biff, why did the fridge send the magnet a Valentine's Day card?
Yeah. Why did the fridge send a Valentine's Day card to a magnet?
They were attracted to each other.
Oh yeah. Okay.
They were, see, that's kind of a physics joke. Yeah, so I'm trying, because of your hopeless romanticism and your love of physics.
Yeah.
Okay, I figured I put, hello, everybody. Welcome to Carnival Personnel. It is Jacques.
And this is Biff. And there is no Joe. And there is no hope.
There is no Joe. And I'm telling you, if I have permission from Joe, or Joe posted, he officially, this is the week that he packed up the Luseum. And I'm just to see.
That is a bummer.
Those 18 years of man cave methodically arranged and placed and curated. I think he, like the collection he has curated over the years, and the display, the way they were displayed, the thoughtfulness that went into each and every inch of that palace. It does. It brings a tear to my eye. I can only think about what Joe's going through, but it's a bigger, well, it's not a bigger, better. It's a survival thing. It's it's a doing what you have to do.
Listen, he's going to a new place.
And that's it. So hopefully we'll go. But anyways, so Biff and I just recorded a podcast, a sideshow for next week. A comedian friend of mine, Mike DuPont, who I've met on the open mic circuit. That was a fun chat, right?
Terrific guy. Yeah.
Somebody who, born and bred Lowell, which meant at one point of his life he had serious drug addiction. Like you're legally obligated to, but I mean, he's got over that, and I think comedy is one of the things that has him in a different path, and I'm glad that he found the road to like he was saying, hey, some of his friends do softball leagues and stuff for their hobbies. I'm glad he picked this hobby because he is one funny motherfucker, and it was great just just chatting with him. The update on the stand up. I talk more about this next week, but I'm trying to find some different open mics because I'm feeling too settled in. There's like 4 or 5 mics I've been going to for a few months. And the one that I see Mike at is right down the street. It's so convenient. I mean, I can leave the house at 8:15 and be home at 9:30. Right. And that's with being a good guy and sticking around to see 6 or 7 guys after me, but I'm still home at 9:30. But I have the showcase coming up, and I gotta make sure that the material is funny in other rooms, or is okay in other rooms. But I like to get out of the comfort zone. I got the heads up on a open mic last Tuesday in Somerville. I drove down.
How far is that?
40 minutes. 35 minutes,
Everything
traffic.
Is 40 minutes.
Right? It really is.
It literally is. Everything is 40 minutes.
So Mike and I did the open mic at Coffee and Cotton, which was great. It was a coffee shop thing. It was great. There was non-combatants. There were some real people there. Yep. And then we drove 45 minutes to Manchester, New Hampshire to do another mic because it is 45. Lowell is truly 45 minutes from Worcester, 45 minutes from Boston, 45 minutes from Manchester, 45 minutes from Providence, Rhode Island, or about an hour. But anyways, so I go to this open mic, and it's not officially a gay open mic, but it was.
I mean, yeah, so it is.
And it was right. No, it's look. I mean, I was not giving anybody judgy looks, but it's like, what's my disapproving dad doing here? Kind of look I was, but it was fun. It was great. I mean, it was awful.
I was more like, I would be more intimidated by the fact that, because, with my body, right. And, with that crowd, I'm thinking, yeah, this is like, I can't compete with these beautiful people.
And it was, and it was a different kind of, it was fun. It was fun. A couple comedians were really great. Yeah. When I say it was so painful, quiet when I went up there. And the tough thing is I knew it was going to be, but in my head, I'm like, good. Now I can work on this. I can work on, one of the things is like, hey, when it's not going well, you kind of rush your stuff. You kind of, look, I won't, as Joe calls it, I won't beautiful mind the whole process I went through, but it was fun. It was fun in its awfulness, but that's, that's part of this.
Yeah.
By the time this podcast drops, I would have already sent to most of our listeners. I was on Sally's Hello Cougar podcast this week, and oh my God, she is.
Yeah, I was so bummed.
Nice.
I just been so swamped at work because I saw that that event. I said, you know what? If I could do it, I would just really love to go. But I was working instead. Thank you very much.
No, I mean, look, I'll be out there this summer. She's gonna put me up at a couple of her mics, which will be great. Which will be absolutely great. Yeah. She's just so supportive and so smart and so funny. But anyways, I was on the Hello Cougar podcast, which I love. Like, I'm dead serious. I listen to Complaints and Observation and I don't listen to a lot of the Conan O'Briens and the Smart List. They're still great, but if I don't have as much time lately to listen to as many podcasts as I did this summer when I'm driving, I will. But if I only get a chance to listen to them, it's always Complaints and Observation and Hello Cougar. And the best part about Hello Cougar is, Sally always talks with other comedians and some of note and some just, journeyman open mic people. But each and every week I either learn something, I get an extra, tool to put in the toolbox that I can use later.
Right.
Or I get I should stop doing that. Or, hey, in my head, I'm like, I think this is how this should work. And then to hear somebody say, yeah, I'll give an example. Like a couple weeks ago, as I'm beautiful minding the last few sets and I keep log and I'm like, I got 5 minutes and I'm getting off the stage at 4:30, but my set's done. My last joke landed. And it was really great to hear, a 30-year vet friend of Sally say, look, when your set's done, it's done. Even if there's even if there's time left on the table, don't force it, especially if your last joke landed. Hand the mic back and get the fuck out of there. And I'm like, okay, so I should stop because I'm like, oh man, if I'm running early, it means I'm rushing my stuff because I timed it to come out. So A, work on that motherfucker. But B, it's like, oh, I could squeeze this in there. Well, that's, but no, get the fuck off. So I learned so much, on that. That's fun. But now we have to talk about a really crappy situation, Biff.
Oh God, that's multiple choice. Which one is it? Which one are we talking about?
My colonoscopy coming up today. By the time as this is dropping, this drops at midnight on Monday. I'm staying at my mommy's house, so my mommy can drive me to the doctor's office.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But management is working, so I'm like, yep. But I do. Have you done that yet? Or have you?
I've done 4.
Oh, wow, nice. Now, do you bring them flowers? Do you give them flowers? How does it work?
You know what? I'll tell you this. The first 2 times I did it, it was like the worst thing I've ever experienced. But the last 2 times, they've changed the methodology a little bit, so it's not so brutal. It's like it literally let's just say that the first 2 times I did it, what basically came out of the other end of my mouth was just so brutal that I thought I felt like I was irritated down there for about 3 days after the process. And now it's still bad, but not quite that bad. So
how bad was the not eating the 2 days before?
actually, that wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. Like when you say you're not eating, I ate Jello. You could eat Jello. So
Right.
I ate Jello, right? I ate Jello and I made chicken soup, and that with nothing in. Obviously, you're not gonna eat chicken soup.
I'm not.
You don't eat vegetables, so I don't know what you're gonna do.
Well, that's the thing. It's like,
soup?
yeah, it says like you can't eat this. It's like you can eat a potato, but no skin type thing, or no fiber and stuff like that.
Well, that's 2 days before. The day before, you pretty much it's all liquid or Jello. Liquid or Jello.
Yeah, I got myself a big thing of apple juice and a bunch of Gatorade Zeros. What about all the stuff that you have to take? Like,
well, it's what part of it is that I'm actually generally good about. I think it has to do with the fact that because I could pretty much eat anything. The fact that it's not a pleasant tasting thing doesn't really. Because I've heard a lot of people have issues with, oh my god, it tastes awful, and you have to suck it down. Yeah, it doesn't. It's not great, but I mean, it's not as bad as like when I get a real nasty, pig tripe is I think nastier than that's itself. And obviously, you can't relate to that.
I cannot. Okay, I've had my fair share of pigs in my day, Biff. But let's leave my '90s band days in the past. You bring your wife, I'll bring another horse. Paul would say. So how have you ever weighed yourself before and after? What was your weight loss?
No, because like it's not permanent. I don't, it's like it's false hope. I don't bother.
Well, we're last week. I started my Phoenix getting in shape kind of thing. Yeah. I'm like, maybe I'll lose a couple of. Maybe it will accelerate.
Well, did you see my text about having another reason to lose weight?
I did.
What is up with that? What is up? Because you guys are planning to come to LA, and then for you, given you're the fandom to the Mario franchise, I'm guessing that you were thinking that you're gonna hit the Mario rides, right? I mean,
well, my little guy really wanted to come out for February vacation. I'm like, dude, no. I mean, it's going to be so crazy busy. Like, but I'm like, dude, we'll be there this summer.
Yeah,
we'll have season passes. It's like, and we're so close that it's like we don't have to go and make a day out of it.
Yeah, but so the reference I'm making is that apparently
all the food.
Well, the Universal is enforcing the kind of this not so well known policy that they have, where for their rides. They can reject people with 40-inch waistlines or bigger from their rides. So, and they think that they'll have to enforce that on their Mario ride. So,
what's funny is we go to lots of theme parks, and if you go to Disney, the modern rides, the newer rides, fine. But the rides that were made in the 60s before the America made a really conscious effort to all be fat fucks. I mean, some of those rides, it's like, nope. Like, even because when I'm in shape, I'm a 34, 36. I mean, you and I, we're just going to have the fat hockey ass. It's, it's, if my goal weight is like 185, but even 185, even my little guy, my little guy is not little. He's 180 right now, but he's a 32, 34 because he's all shoulders and chest.
Yeah.
Me, because of hockey my whole life, I'm all fucking ass and thigh.
Yeah, ass and thigh. Yeah, the quads, right? Yeah.
So you sit on some of those rides that were just they were made for 5'9", 140 pounds, and they were made for fucking John Taylor. That's what they were made for.
I kind of wonder that about, like the Japanese amusement parks, because Japanese people are kind of like, tiny and skinny, right? So I'm thinking, I wonder if they're like fitted differently. Like I wonder if the rides are designed differently. Because I'm not an amusement guy. I'm not an amusement park guy. So I've never been to any of the, I haven't been to Universal or Disneyland Japan. So
So that's been the talk around here. It's like, okay, let's start putting the ducks in a row. Like, the boys' new thing is going to this place. Do you guys have Blaze Pizza out there?
we do.
Okay, so they love the Blaze Pizza, and we're hitting that 2-3 times a week. But we told the boys, it's like, what we're gonna do? We're cutting back to 1 day a week. But the money we would spend on the Blaze Pizza the other day, we're putting that in an account. We're putting that in our Tokyo account because we all want to go. We all want to, do a big family trip.
Or if you just go to Tokyo, you only can go, because
Right.
both
Well, that's
Disneyland and Universal is not in Tokyo.
We understand that. Well, but it's the same as going to California. You know what I mean? If we want to visit Los Angeles, we know, okay, the Golden Gate Bridge ain't in Los Angeles, but we want to, go to Los Angeles. We want to see Los Angeles and see that. So we want to go to Tokyo, and then we'll do a day trip here or a day trip. And I'm guessing it's you can shoot to, it's like when Renetsky comes out here and we take her to New York for the day. You know what I mean? We leave at 4 or 5:30 in the morning. We're there by like 10, 11. We have lunch. We do one event. We do another event. We go to Rock Center. We go to Times Square. We have dinner. We come home. You know what I mean? So if we can do something like that, we will. Yeah. But either way, we will find that out. Speaking of Tokyo, I have, like, the other day, I'm sitting there, and a couple of weeks ago, we were breaking down one Godzilla movie, and so management
what is there to break down?
so much, but management is in the background, and I can't watch one of our shows because she can't really pay attention. I don't want to start something I'm going to get. So I just, because I've watched one thing on Hulu, now as soon as I click on, it's like, oh, here's these other 20 Godzilla movies you haven't seen yet. And so I watched another one this week. It was great. They and this one, is Godzilla. I'll post what it was, but basically, oh, here's Godzilla. He's coming to destroy Tokyo again. We have this new wormhole weapon that we're going to fire at him, and it's going to teleport him somewhere away. But what it accidentally did is it teleported creatures here, and it gave him more power. And then he ends up,
I think that's one of the newer ones. I don't think I've seen that one.
Yeah, it's early 2000s.
Yeah.
It's early 2000s. And then I'm reading it, and it's like, oh, the guy who played Godzilla. And I'm like, the guy who played Godzilla? But the guy in the suit is like a long-time Power Ranger. Like, he was a blue Power Ranger for 81 through 93 type thing. And it's like, oh, they were so happy to be able to get him because he's such a legend. I'm like,
the whole, that's the thing with, the thing that's really important with the Godzilla franchise that I think that the people in this country often don't really understand is that they have a whole franchise that they call tokusatsu, which means, I guess special filming kind of a thing, right? But it actually involves, like, you actually have to have, you can't actually have special effects. You have to have these people in suits, right? That's the whole thing.
Yeah, it's all practical effects.
Yeah. And so
modeling and practical effects.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting that, like, our dear friend Dr. Cook actually posted that the reference to a movie, a mushroom, humanoid movie that I had no idea that had seen the light of. It's called, in Japan they call it matango, but I think there was some mushroom whatever title that they gave here. I had no idea that thing saw the light of day in this country. And he said that that thing was on the monster whatever feature for you guys.
Creature double feature. Yeah,
Creature double feature. It's like that crazy stuff, right?
When Professor Cook posted that instantly, I know Joe and I just sat there and just looked at that tweet for a few minutes and just relived some of the glory days of Saturday, Saturday post cartoon. Right. So it was after the cartoons.
Right.
And then it was,
the guy who came from the country that created that crappy movie, why do you know this movie?
Dude, we know all of that. And what I love is because, of course, I'm me and the ADHD doesn't let me sit and watch a movie. I'm sitting watching the movie, Wikipediaing the shit out of it, right. Going down the rabbit hole. It's like, oh, well, these scenes weren't in the Japanese version, but to make it, but that's been from day one. The very first Godzilla King Kong movie.
Well, that one I knew about. Well, so they basically kind of filmed this, essentially they filmed the superset of scenes to accommodate both, endings, right?
Well, and the original Japanese version, Godzilla wins, but the American version, Godzilla couldn't win because King Kong is an American monster.
Yeah,
and we can't have, and I'm saying this correctly. We can't have you people win. And so it was filmed as a tie, like an ambiguous tie. But, you
guys win World War II. You can't give this monster win for us. Really? I mean, come on.
And it's funny because at the same time, we had to throw in our naval superiority. And there's this whole, I almost said B storyline, or another storyline about this American sub, you know what I mean? That is not at all than the Japanese, and it's the same thing. So, and so many of these movies, it's like, which now it's reversed because, a guy who's going to be coming on the podcast pretty soon, Bill Fay, when he was running Legendary Pictures early 2000, he told me, it's like, the only market really left to crack is China. And so he goes, the third act of every big movie the next 20 years is going to wind up in China. And then Age of Ultron comes out. And then the Transformer movie. The movie's done. The storyline's wrapped up. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. For some inexplicable reason, we now have to go to China because it's one of those things. It's like people in China want to see China on the big screen. Yeah. And if you want your movie to do well in China, you have to have, scenes shot in China or, blue, what do you call it? Yeah, green screen Chinese.
Well, storyline. I know. It's just one of those things that you have to, it is what it is, right? So
exactly. So holding. So here's what's eaten up my time since you and I've last talked.
Okay.
And the last 2 weeks since we've done a podcast, I've started and finished Breaking Bad.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's like what, 5 seasons?
5 seasons. Now, granted, the first season was 8 episodes.
Okay.
You skip the credits. You skip the open thing. There's no cutscene at the end of the credits.
I haven't seen it. Bryan Cranston, obviously star of Godzilla, but yeah.
So, but then, and my wife hates that I do this, but look, I've seen 10 episodes. On the 11th episode, when they do a 3-minute montage of baking the meth.
Okay.
I can fast forward. There's no dialogue. And the thing takes place out New Mexico, or Albert. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's New Mexico. Yeah.
And there's so many montages of driving through nothing desert. That's 90 seconds.
We've never done that, have we?
Not once.
Yeah.
Well, the funny thing is when I moved to LA, so I come out, everything goes right. I come home, I take out a loan, I buy a van. Because it's me and 4 people moving out there.
Right.
I'm sleeping and the kid driving the van, he fucked up. It was an older van, cost $2,000, another $1,000. It was in great shape, but he's desperate to get to LA. I'm driving my old lady pace. He's going 90 and 110 degree, shot the piston through an engine rod. Biff in Albuquerque, New Mexico. So we're 20 miles outside 30 miles outside. We get it
Is that like a
towed.
$2,000 repair?
No, it's dead. It's like this. It's a whole new engine.
Oh my God.
But we have it towed, and it's going to take a day. It's like a Saturday, so we're going to be there 2 days before we even find out what we can do. Biff, it's the first in look, and I've stayed in some not great places. When the boys and I drive cross country, it's like, and we're in nowhere's fuck, and you pull over, and it's like, okay, we have to stay here. I'm way too tired. There's 2 beds in this room. I'm pushing one in front of the door. Like, it was one of those places. And the first place I did that, and I played it, I stayed in crappy places playing juniors.
Right.
I stayed in crappy places touring in the band. But that in Albuquerque, Mexico,
that's funny,
was the first time. I mean, we moved the dresser in front of
my God,
window. Yeah. Oh, dude, it was like it was.
I'll say this. So since we're talking about hotel hell or motel hell, stories. My worst hotel experience was when I took my college team to we had a game against Pacific University in Stockton. And so basically we were on a budget, right? Everybody, essentially the players had to pay their own way. And so I said, we have these options on whatever. And the players just said, you know what? They're all students, right? I said, just make it as cheap as possible. I said, okay, fine. Right. And so what I did was I found a place that was considered to be reasonable by AAA standards.
Okay.
And it was about like $50 a night. Right. So 2 guys per room, $50 a night. You guys can handle this. Right. That's yeah. So we're all gathered in one room where it happened to be a bigger room than everybody else. And I lie down on the on the floor, like next to the TV. We're all kind of watching TV, and something smells funny. And I'm looking, what is this smell? And I kind of look, and right like under the the TV stand or the dresser where the TV was on, I see like cat crap, so I immediately go up to the. So that actually, I think that gave us like a new room plus like an additional discount, which obviously the players were happy about, but yeah. Oh. So yeah, that was the only time in stock. I don't know the name of the motel anymore, but it was the only time where I experienced animal crap in a hotel room.
This was so bad. So it was me, my friend Rod, his girlfriend, well, now wife of 30 years, and another friend of his. And Rod and I would go out and get the food and leave everything in the room except the $20 we needed. Like if we're gonna get mugged, they're not getting the wallet, they're not getting this, they'll get the $20 and that's it. You know what I mean? And that's and then
there you go.
And then we did. Then we get the news on Monday. It's like, dude, it's done. Your van is done. And had to leave everything in it. We rented a 2-door car and drove the rest of the way to LA. So now, I'm watching Breaking Bad. My 15-year-old, that was his thing all last year.
Right.
For a year, he has a pal who's the same age, and one of them was Walter White, and one of them was Jesse Pinkman. And it's funny because way back when the show first went on, and that's like 2009, we go to Phoenix. And one of the guys on the team, Sharansky, shows up, and he had the Walter White bumper sticker. He was mad at me. He was angry with me that I didn't know what the sticker was. I'm like, it's like, why do you have Juan Valdez on the back of your car? And he thought I was being funny, and I really thought he had Juan Valdez bumper sticker on the back of his car. So it's Breaking Bad, and it's you don't watch Breaking Bad. It's like he was angry that I didn't watch Breaking Bad. It's like, no, dude, so my son for the last year has fucking been and because I'm a piece of shit dad, I haven't taken time out to watch it. He's been asking and asking and asking and asking. And then he goes out and look, I know the memes. I know the story. I know it lasted 5 years and that Bryan Cranston won 2 or 3 Emmys, but was nominated every fucking year.
Yeah.
I know it's so good that it had a spinoff that lasted 6 years. Like Better Call Saul lasted 6 years. And so I watched it. And it's one of those things where everybody's going to bed. I would come home from doing stand up. It's 9:30, it's 10. And in the course of 4 hours till 2 in the morning, I'm watching 6 episodes.
Yeah.
And so 2 days later, he's like, wait, you're here? And I see all the memes, and there was one meme that I'm finally like, fine,
Okay.
I'm gonna watch it, and holy shit!
Yeah, that's what I. And you know what? I'm
shit.
just. I'm also that jerk that never watched it. Everybody else in my family has watched it, but
and so now,
yeah.
So now I would say to him, he'd come in the room and he's like, oh my God, I can't believe you like it this much. I'm like, I wish you had told me. Papa, I told you 100 times. Every single, and
everybody else has told you all along how amazing it is.
His mother looks at him
6 years after the show is canceled or is done.
But every time I say that to him, his mother, he gets so mad, and his mother looks at him like, are you really falling for that, Grayson? Come on. He's trolling you. So, Biff, I won't tell you what it is.
Uh-huh.
But there's a misdirection the whole show.
Yeah.
There's a misdirection the whole show. And it gets to the moment. It gets to the moment. And you saw The Mandalorian, right?
Yeah. Yes.
So when Mark Hamill, when Luke Skywalker steps off the elevator, dude, come the fuck on.
Yeah, right.
It's that moment in Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And I see it. And I walk over, and I like, his bedroom is off the side of the living room. It's on that floor.
Yeah.
And I knock on the door, and I open the door, and I say the line.
Right.
And he's like, and he just looks at me, and he's like, right? And I'm like, and I'm like, Grayson, can you read Braille? He's like, what? Biff, I walked over, I hiked up the sleeve on my sweatshirt.
Right.
I'm not fucking around, Biff. Goosebumps. Actual, like, I know that line. I've seen the memes, but to see it in context in real time. And then there was one other scene that my 12-year-old, so my 12-year-old knows the show so well that he started watching it with his brother when his brother was 13, he was 10. That's when they got into it. And Squishy comes upstairs because he heard the scene I was watching, and I didn't know what was about to happen. But it was one of those moments where it was so satisfying, where nobody got killed. There was no big shooter, but
so let me stop you there. Let me stop you there and say, this is why we have no listeners, because we're talking about shit that it ended 10 years ago.
Actually, last week's episode had almost twice as many normal listeners because of our, and I you know what, I meant to give a shout out at the beginning of the show. Last week's, I make no apologies. First of all, I'm going back to the very beginning. We'll get back to Breaking Bad. Last week's,
we're not going to go back to Breaking Bad. It's a 10-year-old show.
But I will say, the little guy came upstairs when that scene happened because he wanted to be in the room with me when I saw it.
That's nice.
Dude, it was great. It was great. I loved it. It's all the fucking hype. It's not overhyped. It's not outdated. It's perfect. It's brilliant. I thought I knew the show. I didn't.
I'm glad you got to see Citizen Kane.
It was great. But last week's podcast, and gosh damn it, I should have put it on the notes to start. My friend Mike, friends with Mike for 20 years. Mike was a great, and before the podcast started, I said, Mike, we're not going to talk any of the negative stuff, because Mike and I have been through some dark stuff together, in a good way. Mike, between Mike and John Taylor is the reason everything worked out for me when things went sideways in 2005, when some bad guys came and stole my company and literally framed me for something I had nothing to do with. But luckily on the Universal side, Mike got their people involved. They investigated, and they're like, all this bad shit happened 6 months after Jacques was out of the company, and the fact that they turned all that information over to the law team that helped me with a wrongful termination case is the reason I won. Anyways, but I'm like, Mike, we're not going. We're going to talk. Look, take the high road. Like, things worked out for Mike. Things worked out for me. There were good times with some people that things later went sideways. Let's talk about all the fun we had and the great things. I will say Yes, I realized my 15-minute rant to start the podcast before I introduced Mike might have been long-winded, but I blame two things. You weren't there and Joe weren't there. the guardrails weren't there. No, I take no responsibility.
I distinctly remember this time where, like, when you were like setting up this question for Sally, he said, to get to the question. No, he goes, oh no, I need to make this point. Dude, like, how much of a setup do you need?
Well, and that's when you were keeping me at bay. Like how long it would have been if you weren't there for the Sally interview. Jesus. But no, it was great. And and it's fun because Mike and I, so a lot of the guys who we talked about this music video that I did for Billy Ray were the backing band were all these kids, who worked at Universal Music Group that worked under Mike. It's like, we need a fake band. Well, this guy's a drummer and you need real musicians to fake.
Right.
And so we reached out to all those guys and made sure they had the podcast. But anyways, that was fun. So you want to talk about things that are 10 years old? When was Balloon Boy? When was that?
Balloon Boy, what's about 7 or 8 years ago, maybe?
Was it longer?
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to look it up.
Have you been following the Asian sequel to that today?
Well, you're talking about the China spy balloon, right?
Dude, what the fuck?
Crap.
Well, it's funny because when I first heard the news, it's like a guy in Billings, Montana reported going by, and I'm like, holy shit. I've been to Billings. I know where that is. There's like 8 people there, and one of the 8 noticed the balloon going by. Good for him. Yeah. As the talk of the podcast,
obviously not a busy town, so they got nothing to do. So yeah, sure.
Okay. And I love, as I've been following it, like, dude, the Balloon Boy thing. That's a where were you then moment. I was listening to the radio. I was running errands. I was on the 405 when I first heard that. And I was desperate to get back home to watch it unfold on TV. Like I was really worried about that kid. You know what I mean?
Obviously, right.
Oh, how beautiful. How beautiful. That poor fucking kid just, But anyway, so this balloon, and then I'm following it, and the normal suspects who are in the GOP, it's like, shoot it down, and the Pentagon's like, we don't know what's in it. You know what I mean? We don't know. It's like, yeah, I get you guys all love your guns.
Shoot it down in your state. How's that?
Right. It's like, you realize how high that is in the atmosphere, that if there's shit there that we don't want being sprayed globally, that maybe we should think about this for a minute. But anyway, so who knows how that's gonna and then the only other political thing I want to even bring up is I'm just gonna say thank you Brandon. The unemployment numbers came out. I was born expected. Born in 1969, and this is the lowest in my lifetime. Right, and it's like they were expecting like $300,000 jobs, and it's like double what they thought.
Yeah. No, great. You know what? One thing I want to say about Brandon, the whole "Let's Go Brandon" thing.
Yeah.
You know what? Where "Let's Go Brandon" is completely applicable, and I really wish that people would hijack the "Let's Go Brandon," thing. Is that the dude that subdued the Monterey Park shooter? His name is Brandon Say. And I'm thinking we should just kind of hijack "Let's Go Brandon" to mean "Let's Go Brandon Say." Because what? That dude is a freaking hero.
Do you think? You know what? I think after this podcast, you and I have to go to one of those make your own T-shirt type things and get our Etsy page. Well, you already have the Etsy page going for all your needlework, but now we're just expanding.
You think I could do? You think I have the coordination to actually do needlework? Are you kidding me?
I was just trying to. So let's, so before you didn't put a Japanese crime thing up there.
No,
week.
You know what? It was actually, so, I watched, even though I've been really busy, I've been watching the news every day. And, it hasn't been a slow, fun news week because the news in Japan has been way too serious, and there's just nothing fun about the news in Japan over the last week. So,
look, I don't want to tell you when you're wrong about your homeland, but you're wrong because I heard a news story this week about whale meat vending machines.
Yes. yes. Let me ask you something.
Okay.
Did you get that from your management?
No, I got that from it. Like it made local news.
Oh, interesting.
It
because
made local
so
news.
it was a social media thing because what it and I don't know how things ended up here because I did not see it in the news here, but it was actually an item of discussion in the homeland because apparently the Korean news media had made a big deal out of it to essentially denigrate the Japanese, and as they should. And as much as I love my homeland, the Koreans should denigrate my homeland because you know what? They need to own up about all the crap that they did in the past, right? I am with the Koreans in terms of the Japanese have sucked when it comes to, essentially acknowledging their wrongdoings. Not that you Americans would know anything about acknowledging past wrongdoings about, right? But
Well, hold that thought for a sec. In school, in primary school in Japan,
yeah.
do they talk? Are the wrongs of Japan taught at all?
Oh, hell no.
Oh, they're not. Okay, because I know in Germany they are. I like everybody in Germany.
I think Germany is very, very, different in terms of, and that's why they have very stringent laws in regards to, there is no free speech in regards to Nazism in Japan, in Germany, right?
Right.
So, right.
But in Japan they don't what about when you get to college and studies past elementary?
That I don't know. I don't know. But what I can tell you is that the compulsory education, and in fact, this is where it's where I kind of get really, really annoyed because there are movements to try to essentially, once again, whitewash is it yellow wash? Did I say that? Did I say yellow wash?
Well,
oh my God!
Thank God you did, because it was in my head. It's like make that joke, but I couldn't.
Yeah, you couldn't do it. Yeah, but anyway, though, I mean, it is one of those things where, the recent, leadership in Japan have been very, very kind of, conservative. It's kind of weird because people don't notice this because little tiny country Japan it has a lot of the similar things that are going on in a lot of other countries where there's a lot of this there is a certain at least a political movement to try to essentially reestablish the old glory of Japan kind of crap. And so there's it is one of the things that I as much as that whole Abe assassination was really bad, I never really liked Abe as a leader of Japan because of a lot of these, tendencies. The Americans loved him because Abe was aligned with American policies. But in terms of how he managed, Japan's legacy, I thought he was garbage, And so there's a lot of, there are literally movements to essentially, I mean, the Japanese are hypersensitive about anytime the comfort women thing is brought up anywhere, they freaking freak out, and they shouldn't. They should acknowledge the fact that they did this, right? I mean, just like with all these, just like we demand with all these other organizations, these are things that were done. We acknowledge it, and we have to figure out how we essentially make,
make Japan great again. Right. Is that what this is? No, but I mean that's the whole thing. It's like we don't go down the rabbit hole, but
yeah, that's the funny thing. So once again, the funny thing is that it was there was a lot of the Japanese got into a little bit of a tizzy fit because the South Koreans were essentially using this to denigrate the Japanese, right?
Where do you weigh in on whale meat?
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, you know what? So I think it's a kind of a complex thing. I think the Japanese should get out of that business, right? I personally think that I think that I don't want to universally say that people should not eat whale, right? That's not what I don't think that I would say that. And the context in which I say that is that, the indigenous people of North America have been essentially harvesting whale for, centuries. And I think that if it is part of their, their traditional, activities, I don't think I want to tell them that you shouldn't do that because I love whales. So I'm kind of, it's a kind of a, I think a tricky, thing to navigate. But I really think that I think that the Japanese need to get out of that thing, because for a couple of reasons. Number one is that even though there is a kind of a tradition of whaling, I think the manner in which they're sustaining it is like complete crap. Like it's BS, where they say, oh, we're doing scientific studies and we need to harvest these whales to get samples, and oh, by the way, we got the whales anyway, so we're going to serve the meat, right?
Yeah, you got the whale jerky.
Yeah.
Ron White, by the way, and gosh, it's been 10 years, 15 years since that. He has a thing about a Japanese restaurant in LA that got busted for selling whale meat.
Well, that was an underground club restaurant in Santa Monica. Yeah,
and I'm gonna say the bit and the voice he does, we're gonna say more than borderline racist, but and it's one of those things. I wish it didn't make me laugh as much as it did, but I think of that. Are whales an endangered species?
Well, so I mean, like just like many things, you're asking a question like, are fish endangered species?
Yeah, okay,
right. It's right. It depends on the whale, right? So the Japanese generally don't hunt down the whales that are endangered, right? Most of the whales that they harvest are probably going to be minkies. They harvest a few of the other. I think they have a quota of like they could harvest a couple of fins and a couple of whatever. They have these numbers that they can actually harvest, right? So what they're doing is sustainable whaling, right? But I think the just because it's sustainable, I personally think that they don't need to do it.
Okay.
But
I agree.
I will say that I grew up eating that stuff. Well, so when I lived in Japan in the early 70s, that I love the whale meat, because back then, like, it was one of the it was like one of the real meats that we could have as a meal. Like it was actually like we probably had it once every, like, whatever, however many days as part of school lunch. I mean, I had it as school lunch. Yeah. So
that's it's just interesting.
Yeah.
Awful interesting. I mean, whales, and especially knowing the whole storyline of Star Trek, having to come back through time to bring a whale to save all of humanity. Like, I just hope your people don't get all those whales that Captain Kirk is going to need in well,
I mean, I think that was a humpback. So the humpback, I don't think is so. Funny story. One of the things is that there is a traditional Japanese a puppetry art where they're marionettes, right? So the marionettes have these strings, right? The strings use whale balloons, so that things like some of the whales have these stringy mouths where they're filter feeding, kind of like quasi filter feeding, and they were almost out of them, and so they thought they were in a crisis, and it turns out that one humpback harvest from an indigenous tribe in Canada was able to sustain them for the next 80 years or something like that.
Wow.
Because the reason why this happened was because the Japanese can no longer harvest the humpback. So
interesting.
But the indigenous can. So.
And so now, because Joe's not here,
one more thing.
Please go. Yes.
So it's just so the one thing I will say about Japan, I hate the fact that they harvest whales, but at least they're not being renegade as they're at least still aligning with the international whale agreements to say that we'll only harvest what we've told that we could be harvest, unlike a few Norwegian countries just say, yeah, we do what we want.
Oh, that's just sad. Yeah. But because Joe isn't here, and because I like it, here is a flashback of one of Joe's self-indulgent theaters. Enjoy.
And now,
hey, Rocky, watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
Again?
Nothing up my sleeve. Presto!
Wrong hat.
I take a 7.5.
Now here's something we hope you'll really like.
In this week's self-indulgent theater, I have asked our good friend Joe if he could do one of my favorite voices he does, that of former mayor of Burlington, Vermont, better known as America's Senator, Senator Bernie Sanders, reading the lyrics of one of my favorite Beastie Boys, one of all of our favorite Beastie Boys songs, "You Gotta Fight for Your Right." So without further ado, Mr. Sanders.
Okay. Thank you, Jacques and Joe. I have one thing to say to the 1% of the 1% out there. Kick it. You wake up late for school, man, you don't want to go. You ask your mom, please, but she still says no. You miss 2 classes and no homework. But your teacher preaches class like you're some kind of jerk. You gotta fight for your right to party. Your pop caught you smoking and he said, no way. That hypocrite smokes 2 packs a day. Man, living at home is such a drag. Now your mom threw away your best porno mag. Busted. You gotta fight for your right to affordable health care. Party! Democratic Party! The end.
I'd like to say thank you on behalf of the group and ourselves. I hope we pass the audition.
All right, so I have no video game news, so we're going to get right to it. Biff, it's the NHL All-Star weekend and hiatus.
There is no sports on TV.
Right. I mean, seriously, are we going to have to do a wellness check in a couple of days?
No, actually, I probably, well, it's a busy week at work, and I'm going to try to catch up on some of the, this is where I'm really, really, really dumb. And so we'll get to it, I guess, in just a sec. But so we'll get, I should be catching up on streaming stuff that I'm really behind on, but I do dumb things. So we'll get to that in just a sec. But yeah, this is a crappy week of sports.
It's because I was so let's talk the NHL. You got what about the trade the trade deadlines? Are there any moves that you're like, oh, this is a great one, this was a bad one? Who do you think wins the trade wars coming out of the deadline?
I really, really, really hate to say this, but I think out of nowhere, I just think that Tampa is going to pull off something because they always do. Tampa and Vegas are the they. I don't know how they do it, but they just pull off these moves where he says they can't do that. It's oh no, they did. So I think I don't know of any reporters that's projecting anything specific, but I'm looking at Tampa and Vegas to think those guys are going to pull something. I don't know what, but they're going to pull something.
What are some of the biggest names on teams that are selling?
So one of the big names moved. Bo Horvat moved. I think there's a few defensemen that might move. Klingberg from Anaheim, veteran defenseman, not so great, but great offensive upside. I think he might move to a team that can afford him. And then for the last 2 years, Jacob Chikrin from Arizona, a younger defenseman that comes real cheap. He's a kind of a coveted guy, but I think there's a couple of mystery teams like Vancouver already has started their little moves, and they may move more pieces. And I think the interesting one is St. Louis, with guys like Ryan O'Reilly and Vladimir Tarasenko. Those are two really, really prime guys, and those are huge difference makers. And if a team can kind of put those guys on their roster, I mean that completely shifts the directions of other teams. So I think St. Louis to me is the big X factor team that I look at in terms of I don't think they're making the playoffs. I think they know that they're not making the playoffs, but they probably want to be sellers. So
what do you think mine and the Blind Squirrels Bruins do? Are there any moves? If you're John Sweeney, are you looking to make a move, and if so, what?
I'll be honest with you. I don't think I'd want to touch that, right? I mean, they're doing so well.
Yeah.
Why would you want to mess with that, right?
I mean, the only thing you can think of is D depth. Just because, as great as you're doing, you still got 35 games before the real season starts.
Yeah, I mean, I keep making fun of FOUR Board, and I still maintain that FOUR Board is garbage. But within that framework, he seems to be doing okay. So
hey, how great was it in Toronto that there was so much calamity going on at the end? It was at the end of the first or the second period. They're like, and it's funny because the hot mic was picking up a bunch of guys like just talking about, all right, you know what? As soon as the fucking puck drops, and the ref is standing right there. Ref looks at the other ref, looks up at the scoreboard, says, you know what? The period's over. We're gonna carry this minute and a half over to the next period.
Yep.
You guys everybody's on timeout. Everybody, go to your room.
That is one of the things that I think that NHL can really, that culture. I really wish that it really starts, going away. A couple of years ago, in the Toronto Lightning series, not Toronto Lightning, Toronto Montreal series, there was an accidental knee that Corey Perry put on to John Tavares that knocked him off the playoffs. And Nick Foligno, who was on the Leafs at the time, ended up fighting Corey Perry. It's like, dude, we all know it's a freaking accident. You don't need to do this. We're not in 1973 anymore, right? Look, I mean,
when it's spontaneous, when it's real. Look, when it's a big game, when you're in a series, when tempers, that's one thing. But the whole, and then that's why look,
and that's why, like I said, like when I saw the Simmons hit that he landed, I said, immediately I said, the linesman has to step in right away, because immediately it was like what's the guy's name? Gary? I can't remember the guy's name, but he didn't look right away. And I said,
right away,
dude. And then of course, 5 minutes later, the concussion protocol sent him into the locker room. It's like, dude, come on, and the thing is, I know that Simmons is doing his job, and his job is, has a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
But I mean, you know what? That
there's a place and time, and right.
I just want that garbage to end. I don't need any more guys living with that, concussion, post PCS after they retire.
No, I mean, when you see that, I'm not going to fall down the rabbit hole. We're not going to talk about it much. I will just say, I don't think Tom Brady's retired. I think he takes a year off. Maybe I think maybe he just waits to see. It's one of those things. He's not going to let himself get out of shape. Let's see what happens over the next few months. He's going to see what happens in training camp. He's going to see, what happens in the draft, and maybe player A moves here. But I think I would be surprised. I would be surprised if he is done.
I will say that I think that Brady needs to talk to Wayne Gretzky. And the reason why I say that is because and not that he should have done it, but Wayne Gretzky has a little bit of a regret that he never played for the Leafs. And I'm thinking that Tom might want to play for that 49ers.
49, yeah. I mean, and like I said, he he didn't have a bad season. I mean, he went through a bunch of personal stuff. He didn't have the receiver core he had the year before. Is he a top 5 quarterback? Probably not. Is he a top 10? Maybe.
I think the real question is he better than the quarterbacks that the 49ers have with their defense that they have, and will they be a better team with Tom Brady? And I'm kind of thinking yes, right?
So it's going to be interesting. We'll wrap it up by saying I don't think he's done. Like, if does he come back next year? Does he take a year off?
I'm really thinking that if he's really serious, he might take a sweetheart deal with the 49ers, and I think that both sides should seriously consider it, right? Because, I mean, that team went to this conference finals, right?
With me or you.
right. I mean, with freaking Purdy, right? I mean, so you put Tom Brady in there. I mean, I feel like he should do it.
So it's going to be interesting. Let's see. We've already talked streaming and all that stuff.
I did. So I said I was going to get to it. So I should be watching all these shows that I said that I would watch, and I did finish Wednesday season 1.
And
fantastic.
you like it? Yeah, fantastic.
Yep. Incredible season. But so I said, there's all these things that I should watch, and then I somehow caught this random Japanese TV series named Maiko, the essentially the Makanai, basically feeding the Maiko. So there's the premise is that these 2 girls from one of the northeastern portion of Japan goes to Kyoto with the hopes of being a Maiko. So Maiko is like, it's kind of like the Western Japan version of a geisha kind of a thing, right?
Okay.
It's these women who are basically trained to do to entertain, men, right?
Go on.
No. It's not. It's sadly not kinky like that. And so these 2 girls, essentially they graduate from high school and they get accepted by this Maiko house. One of the girls is just not good. I mean, she just does not have, like this kind of a talent, right? But she gets to stay because this girl can cook. So they let her stay as essentially her job is to cook for the household kind of a thing, right? This whatever. And so that's what I've started watching, because there's all these other things that I should be watching, but I got gravitated to this. So yeah, that's what I'm watching. Sorry.
That's fantastic. That and you got a parenting tip to wrap it up?
Parenting tip is that, you know what? It's always good to kind of align your interests with your children's to some degree. So I think at some point in the next few weeks, we're gonna go to one of the casinos with the child, and hopefully he drives.
Like local place?
Yeah, one of the local places. Yeah.
Oh, dude, that will be fun. Yeah.
What you got?
Corrupting a child.
He's corrupting me.
My boys are old enough to make some decisions by themselves.
Right.
But they're not old enough to make the decisions to not make a decision.
All right.
And so we have February vacation coming up. Yep. And look, for all the challenges Lowell has, dude, some of the shit that they have available for kids, it's fucking awesome.
Okay.
It is awesome. I mean, I've talked about it before, like the school lunch program, but it's free.
Right.
The arts, the fact that like the arts in this town through the school,
right?
Music, theater. They have a kiln. I mean, you want it's wonderful. It's fucking wonderful. Yeah. So February vacation's coming up.
Yeah.
And they got to do something, and we get the information. An email comes through. It's like, oh, the oldest one is old enough to take a lifeguard course. It's 4 hours a day.
Oh.
It comes with lifeguard, CPR, first aid. Right. And if you pass this course, you can get a summer job at the summer pools for $16 an hour.
Oh, yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Also, the high school is having a 2-day wrestling camp. And it's 3 to 4 hours long. And I gave the oldest one the option. It's like,
okay,
you can choose which one of these you want to do.
Right.
Because he was saying, like, I want to make my own choices, and I don't get this, and I don't, you guys tell me what to do. I'm like, okay. It's the same thing. There's an after school program, and there's 14 of them. I'm like, you're doing 2 of them. So No, you if your choice is to not choose and come home and play games, that's off the table. You know what I mean? It's like you are not coming home. But you can choose any of these. And actually, he chose debate for one of them, and he's liking it. So he had trouble making the choice. I signed him up for both. And so on Tuesday and Wednesday of vacation, he will go to the pool.
It's like what's that? Was it contact? Why make one of these things when you can make two for twice the price?
100%. And so now he's not happy. But I'm like, dude, I gave you the choice. You did not make the right choice. This choice has been now made for you. And at the end of the day, it's like, dude, it's 3 hours in the morning at 1. It's 2 hours here. You got to go to jiu-jitsu twice this week anyways. But instead, because he might go to the high school, it's like, dude, it's going to be run by the high school coach. This might be a good chance to meet some people if you end up going to the high school. You're already you'll walk in there a freshman with more wrestling experience than probably most of the kids who are juniors or seniors. But you know what? If he does get that summer job being the lifeguard, he's gonna he's gonna love the money. Well, I mean, to be honest, most likely we're going to spend most of the summer out there. Now, if you're hiring a lifeguard out here, pool, no, he can get jobs. No, there's plenty of jobs. No, there is. In fact, there's a shortage of them right now in Southern California, and that's it. But it's not just over the summer. There's like 3 Ys within like a half hour of us. And dude, here's the fucked up thing: my little baby boy, by the time we get back, from LA, he'll have his license. Like he turns 16. No, he can get his permit. Anyways, so my parenting tip is, you know what? Let them spread their wings. Yeah. Let them make some choices. Yeah. But if they don't make the right choices, just give them all. Yeah. So I did. I'm like, fine, you do it all. Yeah. So hard to believe I'm about to say what I'm about to say, but I've talked enough. So Joe, Biff, it's up to you to land the plane. Yeah. So you know what? Thankfully we didn't talk too much politics, but boy, what a crazy week in politics. The party that has a dude that got elected on all kinds of false. I just found out today that he, DeSantos guy, claimed that he was one of the producers for the Spider-Man Broadway show. He's like, why would you even say such a stupid thing? It's like, whatever. And then you have, Ilhan Omar getting kicked off the Homeland Security Committee and replaced with MTG, who is essentially a mass shooting and 9/11 doubter and all this stuff. And there is a lot of crap that goes on, and politics goes up and down. Parties switch. Essentially their power. What they have in power. So right now we're in that little funny midterm thing where the power is a little split between the two parties, but 2024 is coming up soon, so don't forget.
Strange friend. For once I found myself without your charm. Take it all again. I need no point of reference, your kitten's arms.